Welcome to Liberty Coins Value, the ultimate place for coin enthusiasts, treasure hunters, and collectors who believe that the smallest pieces of metal can hold stories, mysteries, and fortunes beyond imagination. And today we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating tales in American numismatic history, the 1993 P-quarter dollar coin that has stunned collectors, appraisers, and investors alike with an unbelievable valuation of $46 million, not because it's made of precious metal, but because of its incredible combination of minting errors, historical quirks, and mysterious production anomalies that turned an ordinary piece of change into one of the most valuable coins ever discovered, a true testament to how rare mistakes can sometimes produce priceless treasures. Imagine holding a coin that, at first glance, looks just like the millions of quarters in your pocket, bearing the familiar image of George Washington on the obverse and the proud eagle on the reverse, yet hidden within its surface are clues that set it apart from all others: tiny imperfections, double designs, misaligned strikes, and metallic inconsistencies that together tell a story so unique it could never be replicated. The 1993 P-quarter dollar, minted at the Philadelphia Mint, was part of a regular mintage of hundreds of millions of coins, yet one or a few rare specimens escaped with peculiar errors that transformed them into numismatic legends, and as collectors began to discover these anomalies, whispers spread through the coin community that a single quarter could be worth more than a mansion, more than a fleet of luxury cars, more than even gold bars stacked high in a vault. The reason lies in the artistry and complexity of the minting process itself, where every detail, every strike, die alignment, and planchet composition plays a critical role in producing perfection, and when perfection falters even slightly, the result can be a one-of-a-kind piece of history. In 1993, the U.S. Mint's machinery was undergoing numerous updates to ensure precision in mass production, but even with high technology, human oversight, and mechanical calibration, certain errors occurred, and some of those were so subtle and rare that they went unnoticed until years later, when dedicated collectors inspecting their coin rolls began to find strange differences in coloration, texture, or design on a few of these quarters. One of the most famous types of errors seen on the 1993 P-quarter is the double die obverse error, where parts of George Washington's profile, especially the lettering in Liberty or In God We Trust, appear to have been struck twice slightly out of alignment, giving a ghost-like shadow effect that is instantly noticeable under magnification. This doubling can occur when the die shifts slightly between strikes, causing overlapping impressions, and because dies are replaced frequently, only a limited number of coins might carry this anomaly before the mint corrects it, making each surviving example extremely rare. Then there's the off-center strike error, where the coin is not perfectly centered when struck, causing parts of the design to be missing or distorted, with the rim uneven and parts of the inner design shifted toward one edge. Such coins visually stand out and become prized possessions because they represent minting mishaps frozen in metal. In the case of the 1993 P-quarter, a few specimens have been identified with dramatic off-center errors, where up to 15 to 20% of the design is missing, and yet the key details remain visible enough to confirm its authenticity, a perfect balance of imperfection that collectors find irresistible. Another key factor that makes some 1993 P-quarters so valuable is the possibility of planchet composition errors. Most modern quarters are composed of copper nickel clad over a pure copper core, giving them a specific weight and appearance, but occasionally, due to a mix-up at the mint, a blank intended for a different denomination, like a dime or even a foreign coin, gets fed into the quarter press. When this happens, the resulting coin may be underweight, have a different color or edge, and even emit a distinct metallic ring when dropped. Such off-metal strikes are extremely rare, and their discovery often triggers bidding wars among advanced collectors. Imagine a 1993 P-quarter struck on a nickel planchet, or even on a silver planchet leftover from commemorative issues. These anomalies would skyrocket in value, with authenticated examples easily reaching hundreds of thousands or even millions at auction. Then there are die cracks, cuds, and die breaks, minor defects that occur when the die begins to wear or fracture after repeated use, leaving raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin's surface. These irregularities give each affected coin a fingerprint-like uniqueness, and collectors love to hunt for the most dramatic examples where the cracks resemble lightning bolts or patterns across Washington's portrait or the eagle's wings. Some 1993 P-quarters exhibit large die chips that partially fill the letters of United States of America or E pluribus unum, creating a charming imperfection that signals the coin's journey through the relentless pounding of the minting presses. What makes the $46 million valuation even more fascinating is the convergence of multiple errors on a single coin. There are unconfirmed but widely discussed stories within the numismatic community about a specimen that combines several anomalies: a double-die obverse, a broad strike without a complete rim, and an off-metal planchet, all wrapped into one mysterious coin found decades later in a forgotten collection. When coins like this surface, their provenance, meaning their history of ownership, adds further intrigue. A coin found in a mint employee's estate, or one that was part of a collection assembled directly from uncirculated mint bags in 1993, carries more authenticity and mystique, and when professional grading companies like PCGS or NGC authenticate such specimens and assign them unique designations like Mint Error MS67 Double Die Off Metal, the value can skyrocket to mind-blowing figures, driven by collector demand and the aura of impossibility surrounding its creation. But beyond the physical errors themselves, the 1993 P-Quarters mystique is also tied to the broader cultural and historical context of early 1990s America. The quarter was a workhorse coin used daily across the nation, from parking meters to vending machines, so for one to survive in pristine, mint-state condition is already rare. Combine that with a dramatic error and decades of circulation where most examples were worn down, and you get a near-miraculous survivor, a piece of pocket change that defied time and fate. Stories of lucky finders abound: people who purchased coin rolls from banks only to discover strange doubling, collectors who inherited jars of old change from relatives and found odd-weight coins, even metal detector hobbyists who unearthed a 1993 P-quarter with an unusual gleam and texture, later realizing it was a legendary mint error worth millions. Such stories fuel the dream that anyone could stumble upon fortune in the most ordinary places. The psychological allure of these coins lies in that very idea, that perfection is common but imperfection can be priceless. The 1993 P-quarter embodies this truth perfectly. Each coin produced that year was intended to be identical, but fate decided otherwise for a few, embedding subtle mistakes that transformed them into treasures. The mint's meticulous quality control typically prevents such errors, but given the volume of production, hundreds of millions per year, even one unnoticed misfeed, one momentary misalignment, or one worn die can produce a handful of anomalies before being caught. Those handfuls become legends. In the secondary market, high-grade error coins draw intense competition. A 1993 P-quarter certified as a unique mint error in MS68 or higher condition could be the centerpiece of any major collection, commanding headline-making prices. The $46 million valuation, though extraordinary, represents not only its physical rarity but its status as a one-of-a-kind numismatic artifact whose story intertwines with the history of American coinage. Collectors know that beyond metal and design, what truly drives value is narrative, the story a coin tells about human error, technology, and discovery. Every mint error is a story of something that wasn't supposed to happen, and that forbidden quality captivates the imagination. The presence of multiple anomalies on a single coin magnifies that feeling exponentially, making it less a coin and more a tangible miracle. The 1993 P-quarter's journey from ordinary to legendary also highlights how numismatics blend science, art, and luck. An expert numismatist analyzing the coin might use microscopy to identify die polishing marks, metal flow patterns, and strike pressure details, all of which can confirm authenticity. Others look for micro-varieties, tiny differences in mint mark placement or font thickness that distinguish one die from another. It's a forensic art, decoding a coin's DNA to uncover its origin. For instance, researchers have noted that some 1993 P-quarters with doubling also have slightly different reading on the edges, possibly indicating that the collar die used was replaced mid-production. Such minute details add layers of intrigue and potential value. Then there's the market psychology aspect. When a coin achieves mythical status, its value transcends rational pricing. Investors, collectors, and even museums compete not merely for ownership but for the prestige of possessing a tangible piece of American minting history. Next. Today, we're unraveling the mystery behind one of the most talked about coins among collectors and enthusiasts, the 1982 P Washington $quarter coin, a seemingly ordinary piece of 25-cent currency that has stunned the numismatic world with its reported value of a jaw-dropping $39 million, all because of its rare errors, unique minting mistakes, and incredible historical background that turned this small piece of metal into a legendary collectible. The 1982 P quarter has become one of those coins that has captivated the imagination of collectors across generations, and understanding why it's worth such an astonishing figure means diving into the details of how it was created, what went wrong during its minting process, and how the smallest imperfections can turn into astronomical value in the eyes of coin experts and passionate numismatists. Back in 1982, the United States Mint was undergoing a transitional period, experimenting with materials and refining production processes to address rising costs of metal and improve minting efficiency. However, with these changes came the potential for mistakes, mint errors that often slipped past quality control and ended up in circulation. The Philadelphia Mint, denoted by the letter P, was heavily involved in producing the Washington quarters that year, but what makes the 1982 P quarter so particularly valuable is the combination of unique minting errors and the extremely low survival rate of specific variations that occurred accidentally during production. Among the most notable errors associated with the 1982 P quarter are off-center strikes, double die obverse, filled mint marks, and planchet anomalies, each one contributing to the coin's mystique and value. Imagine a quarter where George Washington's portrait is slightly doubled, his profile appearing ghost-like with overlapping lines or shifted features. That's a double die obverse error, and collectors go wild for these because each one is essentially a one-of-a-kind mistake, created when the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly between impressions. Now, add to that the fact that some 1982 P quarters were struck on planchets intended for other denominations, such as nickels or dimes, due to mix-ups at the mint, and you have a combination of errors so rare that it's nearly impossible to replicate. These planchet errors mean the coin could be lighter or thinner than a normal quarter, yet still bear all the correct quarter design elements, an incredible anomaly that only a handful of collectors have ever seen in person. Another type of error that has driven the 1982 P quarter's value sky high is the off-center strike, where the coin's design is misaligned, sometimes by as much as 20% or more, leaving part of the image missing or shifted toward the edge. These kinds of errors are visual and dramatic, making them particularly appealing to collectors because they show a tangible mistake that escaped the usually precise minting process. But perhaps the most intriguing detail about the 1982 P quarter is how the lack of a mint mark on some examples caused confusion and speculation. While the Philadelphia Mint traditionally used no mint mark before 1980, the inclusion of the P mark began appearing on most denominations starting in 1980, but inconsistencies in that transition year led to a few quarters without a visible mint mark, sparking debate among collectors about their authenticity and rarity. Combine this with the fact that 1982 was also a year of economic change, when the mint stopped producing uncirculated sets for general sale, meaning that many coins from that year never received the special preservation that other years did, leaving fewer high-quality specimens in existence. When collectors realized that pristine, uncirculated examples of the 1982 P quarter with errors were almost impossible to find, their value skyrocketed. Add to that the intrigue of several 1982 P quarters being discovered with unusual metal compositions, such as copper-nickel blends that don't match the official mint specifications, likely the result of leftover planchets from earlier production cycles being reused. This kind of metallurgical anomaly is the stuff of legends in numismatics because it proves that the coin isn't just old, it's a tangible piece of mint history, representing a moment when machines and humans together created something extraordinary by accident. The $39 million figure often attached to this coin comes from the perfect storm of rarity, condition, error complexity, and collector hype. Some examples, discovered through estate sales or coin rolls, have been authenticated by grading services like PCGS or NGC and show evidence of double dies, off-center strikes, or die cracks so unusual that they make each coin a literal masterpiece of imperfection. Imagine finding a coin where a crack runs through Washington's face, creating what collectors call a lightning bolt error, or where the P mint mark is filled with metal, making it appear as if it vanished entirely. Those small imperfections can elevate a coin from pocket change to multi-million-dollar rarity. Beyond the visible errors, there's also the lore of a few prototype or test strike 1982 P quarters, possibly created as the mint-adjusted dies and alloys for the upcoming 1983 production run. If any of these test strikes survived and were accidentally released, they would be nearly priceless, as prototypes were never meant to enter circulation. It's this mix of potential prototypes, transitional errors, and metallurgical experimentation that gives the 1982 P quarter its aura of mystery and immense collectible value. Collectors often say that no two 1982 P quarters with errors are exactly alike, and this uniqueness is what drives the incredible valuations. A normal 1982 p quarter might be worth only 25 cents, but at a dramatic minting error, pristine condition, and documented provenance, and the value climbs exponentially. Even tiny details like a slightly rotated die, where the design on one side is misaligned with the other, can add thousands or millions to the coin's worth. The story of this coin also ties into the broader narrative of how error coins are valued in the market. While traditional coin collectors once viewed errors as imperfections, modern numismatists celebrate them as fascinating anomalies that tell stories about human oversight, machine flaws, and the evolution of minting technology. The 1982 p quarter perfectly encapsulates this idea, a simple everyday object transformed into a treasure by the very mistakes that most industries would discard. One particularly rare specimen of the 1982 p quarter is rumored to have been struck using a proof die, meaning it carries sharper details and mirrored fields typical of proof coins but was made for general circulation. The possibility of such a hybrid coin existing is thrilling for collectors because it represents a bridge between the mint's official production lines and its experimental phases. Stories like this fuel the mythos of the $39 million valuation, because when you combine historical intrigue, proven error types, rarity of condition, and collector demand, you get a perfect recipe for numismatic legend. Furthermore, many of these coins were mishandled or circulated heavily before collectors recognized their importance, meaning that finding one in pristine, mint state condition is akin to winning the lottery. The grading of such a coin plays a huge role in its value. A mint state 67 or 68 example with dramatic errors would command extraordinary sums at auction, especially if accompanied by certification and historical documentation linking it to early mint batches. As time goes on, the number of surviving examples will only decrease, either lost to circulation or damaged, further boosting the value of those that remain intact. Some experts believe that the story behind the 1982 p quarter's $39 million value is not just about rarity, but about the passion and competition within the coin collecting community, where collectors are willing to pay staggering prices to own a unique piece of history. Coin collecting has always been about more than just money. It's about holding a physical artifact that represents the artistry, technology, and occasional human error that define our monetary heritage. The 1982 p quarter symbolizes that beautifully. Imagine a simple coin born in a time of transition, surviving decades of circulation, carrying within it the trace evidence of a machine's slip or a craftsman's oversight, and then being rediscovered decades later as one of the most valuable coins on Earth. That's the magic of numismatics. What makes the 1982 p quarter even more compelling is how it bridges generations of collectors, from seasoned experts studying die varieties under microscopes to newcomers who check their spare change after hearing stories like this one. The allure lies in the possibility that you could be holding a $39 million piece of history without even knowing it. Some of the 1982 p quarters display what's called a clipped planchet error, where part of the coin's edge is missing due to a misfeed in the blanking press, resulting in a distinctive crescent shape that's both visually striking and extremely valuable. Others show lamination errors, where layers of metal flake away, revealing the underlying copper core, each a testament to the chaotic beauty of minting imperfections. And then there are the broad strike errors, where the collar that normally keeps the metal in place during striking fails, allowing the coin to spread out wider than usual. Last, to the 1989 D quarter dollar coin that has stunned the numismatic world with its jaw-dropping value of $30 million, a sum no one could have imagined for a regular piece of change that once jingled in pockets or sat forgotten in old drawers. Yet, beneath its humble copper-nickel surface lies a combination of rare errors, minting mysteries, and unique anomalies that have elevated it to legendary status among collectors who understand that even the smallest imperfection in a coin can transform it from ordinary currency into an artifact of immense historical and financial significance. So buckle up as we explore the details, the hidden mistakes, and the fascinating factors that make this coin one of the most valuable and talked about in American history. The 1989 D quarter, minted in Denver, was part of the regular Washington quarter series that had been in circulation for decades, but what sets this particular coin apart isn't just its age or design, but the fascinating and nearly impossible minting errors that occurred during its production, creating a perfect storm of rarity and intrigue. The coin, struck at the Denver Mint, features the signature D mint mark beneath the eagle's tail feathers, yet upon closer examination by experts, it became apparent that something was seriously off about this coin. so much so that it rewrote what collectors thought they knew about modern coinage. Imagine finding an ordinary-looking quarter in your change, only to realize that its details, its shine, its edges, even its texture, hold clues to one of the most significant minting accidents of the 20th century. That's precisely what happened with the 1989 D quarter, where a combination of planchet errors, double strikes, off-center impressions, and die misalignments converged into one piece that defied the laws of minting precision. One of the key factors contributing to this coin's incredible value is the off-metal strike error. Unbelievably, the 1989 D quarter was reportedly struck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin, resulting in a weight, composition, and metallic tone different from the standard 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel combination used in regular quarters. This unexpected alloy variation created a coin with a slightly golden hue and different resonance when dropped on a hard surface, something that initially confused early finders but later became one of its defining traits. When experts examined it under magnification, they also discovered faint traces of a double die error on both the obverse and reverse, with the word Liberty and the date, 1989, slightly shadowed, indicating that the die struck the planchet twice but with a minuscule shift in alignment, producing a subtle but unmistakable doubling effect that seasoned collectors prize as one of the rarest forms of minting imperfection. Additionally, the Denver Mint's quality control during the late 1980s was undergoing transitions, with old machinery being phased out and newer presses being introduced, and this period of adjustment led to a few anomalies escaping unnoticed, including misaligned dies, die cracks, and improperly centered mint marks, all of which could appear on certain 1989 D coins. But on this particular $30 million specimen, they combined in a way that seems almost intentional, as if fate itself decided to create the ultimate collector's masterpiece. Furthermore, the edge reading of this coin, a detail often overlooked by casual collectors, exhibits an unusual pattern, with irregular spacing between the reeds and sections appearing faint or smooth, a clear sign that the reading collar may have been damaged or worn during striking. Such irregularities are almost impossible to find today because most flawed coins would have been detected and melted before leaving the mint, yet this one somehow slipped through, surviving the minting process, circulation, and decades of obscurity to resurface as one of the most mystifying and valuable coins ever discovered. Another point of fascination lies in the coin's reverse design, where the eagle appears to have minute die cracks extending from its wing tips toward the legend, United States of America, and collectors have theorized that these lines might have been caused by a die that was close to breaking apart, adding another layer of rarity to its story. Some have even suggested that the pressure applied during striking was inconsistent, creating a slightly concave surface, particularly around the words E pluribus unum, which gives the coin a warped yet mesmerizing appearance under certain lighting. But what truly catapulted the 1989 D quarter into numismatic fame wasn't just its errors, it was the mystery of how such an extensively flawed coin could have escaped the mint unnoticed, especially given the Denver facility's reputation for precision. Some theories suggest that a mint employee may have set aside experimental or misstruck pieces, while others propose that the coin could have been part of an internal test batch for new striking equipment, accidentally mixed with regular coins and released into circulation. Regardless of the truth, its existence challenges long-held assumptions about the minting process and quality control protocols of the era. When the coin was finally brought to light by a private collector who initially thought it was merely a misaligned strike, numismatic experts around the world rushed to authenticate it, and the results stunned even the most experienced professionals. It wasn't just a double-struck, off-metal, misaligned specimen, it was all of these things simultaneously, making it a once-in-a-lifetime minting event, a perfect storm of imperfections that could never be replicated. The coin's surface analysis revealed microscopic layering patterns inconsistent with standard Denver production from 1989, suggesting the planchet could have originated from a batch meant for another denomination or foreign contract. This anomaly alone skyrocketed its potential value, but coupled with the doubling, off-center strike, and reading errors, it became clear that this coin was unlike any other in existence. Over time, the legend of the 1989 D quarter grew, with collectors calling it the Miracle Mint Quarter, and dealers scrambling to locate any similar specimens, hoping to uncover another of its kind. However, extensive searches through rolls, bags, and hoards of 1989 D quarters have yielded nothing even remotely close in characteristics, confirming that it is, indeed, one of a kind. Its discovery sparked renewed interest in late 20th century quarters, a period once considered too modern to yield treasures of significant value, and inspired a new generation of hobbyists to examine their loose change more carefully, proving that even recent coins can conceal monumental worth. The coin's current valuation of $30 million isn't just based on its physical errors but also on its symbolic importance. It represents the intersection of chance, craftsmanship, and historical timing, encapsulating a moment when machinery, materials, and human oversight converged to create an accidental masterpiece. Collectors and museums alike have vied for ownership, with offers ranging from private bids in the millions to institutional proposals to display it as a testament to the art and science of coin minting. Interestingly, this coin's fame has also reignited debates about what defines true numismatic value. Is it rarity alone, or the story behind it? The 1989 D-quarter embodies both, as its backstory adds emotional depth and historical intrigue to the raw rarity of its existence. From the subtle dye polish marks across Washington's cheek to the faint outline of a secondary strike on the reverse lettering, every detail tells a part of the coin's journey from mint floor to multimillion-dollar artifact. Specialists have noted that under ultraviolet light, the coin's surface exhibits a faint luminescence inconsistent with typical Denver quarters of that year, possibly due to the unusual metal composition or residual treatment during planchet preparation, further distinguishing it from its contemporaries. Even more fascinating is the fact that, despite its errors, the coin remains in remarkably high grade, with sharp relief details and minimal wear, suggesting it may have been pulled from circulation early, either by chance or by someone who sensed its oddity long before the rest of the world caught on. Some numismatists have drawn parallels between the 1989 D-quarter and legendary era coins like the 1943 copper penny or the 1955 double die cent, arguing that its story captures the same spirit of accidental greatness that defines numismatic history. It's a coin that reminds us that perfection isn't always the goal. Sometimes, it's the mistakes that create magic. Today, collectors continue to discuss whether more examples could exist, possibly undiscovered in private hoards or forgotten in mint archives, though after years of searching, the consensus is that this particular coin stands alone, unmatched and irreplaceable. Its impact on the coin market has been profound, fueling a wave of interest in era coin collecting and pushing prices for rare mint mistakes to unprecedented levels, as enthusiasts hope to replicate the dream of finding a multimillion-dollar treasure in their pocket change. And beyond its monetary value, the 1989 D-quarter serves as a reminder of the human element behind every coin, how a momentary lapse, a worn die, or an overlooked press setting can give birth to a piece of history that transcends its intended purpose. Each nick, line, and imperfection is a fingerprint of the mint's past, an accidental signature that transforms it into something truly priceless.